KWT slaying.
Shabbat Shalom, family. Shabbat Shalom. How y'all doing today? Minister tell you, say hi to the family.
Greetings, family. Salama.
So the question today, family, is: are you packed? Why? Why do I say that? Because there's so many prophecies coming to pass today that if you don't have eyes to see, I'm like, I don't see how you don't. Right? I don't see how you don't. Now, I know some people, they act like they don't talk about or teach about end time prophecy because, to be honest with you, they don't know anything about it. There's no revelation, there's no understanding of the scriptures, how they come together. The thing is, I have to say is that, we have a good track record, you know. So, what I'm going to say today: eat the meat, spit out the bones. That's how we do, right? And it's my opinion based upon what I see. That's all it could ever be, because we see through a glass darkly. But understand that, I mean, to me, I'm literally seeing verbatim. I'm seeing verbatim the prophecies coming to pass, verbatim, and it's hard for me to ignore. It's hard for me to ignore these prophecies because, I mean, I don't know what to even say anymore. I mean, that's what it looks to me like America's done. Is looking to me that the Exodus has to be near, right? If America's going to be done. Now, we have to always have a caveat, right? I'm gonna give you a range. I'm gonna give you a range. Just how I feel. Eat the meat, spit out the bones. From this July, maybe to 2025, I think at max, this is my opinion. At max, we got 3 years. At max. Now, do I think we literally have 3 years? I think it's way less than 3 years. Okay. I think it's way less than 3 years, but at max 3 years. You want to comment on anything before I continue, Minister Taylor?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for me, yeah, I feel in my bones it's around that 3-year mark, but at the same time, I play the safe card. I'm cautious like that. But at the same time, the events are on such a high pace right now. I mean, we're not even talking about the natural disasters that continue. Remember when everybody was laughing at the 400 years, 2019, 2020, boom, nothing has ever been the same since. All right. So we know we're in the midst of it, right? Just timing wise, that's what we trying to piece together. But from what we're seeing right now, there's a major change about to happen.
Well, Minister tell you, they keep saying that they ain't nothing with their 400-year prophecy, but I'm like, okay, what are you not seeing, right? Because I'm like, is something wrong with y'all? Are y'all just deceivers? Or y'all liars? Or you really just don't see it? I just don't see how you can see all these things and say there is no 400-year prophecy. Because if you know the 400-year prophecy, right, then guess what?
Well, for for some people, for some people, end time prophecy messes up the agenda, right? You have a lot of Israelite communities, elders, mores, all that. It messes up their plans, right? They're trying to build the church. They're trying to build this new religious ministry. We're not doing that. We're not into that. We're doing the work of the Most High. We take the scriptures literally, and we try to trust the Holy Spirit to reveal to us what's going on. So that's the difference. You have to believe the word of Yah and take it as it is, just how the Father has dished it out, how He has given it to the prophets. You shouldn't be trying to add to it and all of this kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I put the link out there if y'all want to join the conversation and discuss some of these things. Come on in. Brother Asaph, how you doing, my brother?
Elder Asaph is doing really, really well. I
Praise the
give
Most
the
High.
I give the Most High thanks and praise for the prayers that's gone up for me. You know, it's given me an extra step, energy in my step, and seeing what's going down now makes me know that we haven't got long to go, my brother. I've got loads of t-shirts and stuff like that ready for the tropics.
You ready for the tropics, huh?
Yeah, I'm ready for the tropics.
All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with this, scriptures that we've covered many times on this channel, and I want you all to pay attention to what these scriptures says, and then with what I'm going to show you all, and we're all going to comment on these things as we go along. Now, I wonder if I can share the scripture and play this. Well, all right, just listen to it. And this is from Jeremiah chapter 50, family. Jeremiah chapter 50.
Jeremiah 50. The word that the Lord spake against Babylon and against the land of the Chaldeans by Jeremiah the prophet. Declare ye among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard. Publish, and conceal not. Say, Babylon is taken, Bel is confounded. Merodach is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded, her images are broken in pieces. For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. In those days, and in that time, saith the Lord, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together, going and weeping they shall go and seek the Lord their God. They shall ask the way to Zion, with their faces thitherward, saying, Come, let us join ourselves to the Lord in a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. My people hath been lost sheep, their shepherds have caused them to go astray. They have turned them away on the mountains, they have gone from mountain to hill, they have forgotten their resting place.
So before we continue, I just want to let you all know. So one of the sisters we met with recently, talked to at least, she had a dream concerning the shepherds. And I'm not giving her a name, but in her dream, the pastors and the mores and the teachers was bowing before the Most High. And when the Most High arrived, he beckoned to all the teachers. He said, come here, right? And from my understanding from the dream, and if she want to share it, she can share it later. He sent them away because they were not doing or teaching what he told them to teach. They were not doing what he told them to do. So it's just interesting that here, it talks about how the shepherds have caused them to go astray. But let's continue. And I'm gonna stop as we go along and put an emphasis on certain verses that I want you to take note of, because there's some things we're going to look at that you need to remember. All right. Okay.
All that found them have devoured them, and their adversaries said, We offend not, because they have sinned against the Lord. The habitation of justice, even the Lord, the hope of their fathers. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flocks. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her.
This is one of the scriptures, verse 9, I want you to keep in your mind, right? They shall set themselves in array against her. They're going to surround Babylon. Keep that in your head, all right?
From thence she shall be taken, their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied, saith the Lord. Because ye were glad, because ye rejoiced, O ye destroyers of mine heritage, because ye are grown fat as the heifer at grass, and bellow as bulls. Your mother shall be sore confounded. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. Because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Every one that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished, and hiss at all her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand. Her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of the Lord. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her. Cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handleth the sickle in the time of harvest. For fear of the oppressing sword they shall turn every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his own land. Israel is as scattered as sheep. The lions have driven him away. First the king of Assyria hath devoured him, and last this Nebuchadrezzar king of Babylon hath broken his bones. Therefore thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land, as I have punished the king of Assyria. And I will bring Israel again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, saith the Lord, the iniquity of Israel shall be sought for, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them whom I reserve. Go up against the land of Merathaim, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pekod, waste and utterly destroy after them, saith the Lord, and do according to all that I have commanded thee. A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become a desolation among the nations? I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babylon. And thou wast not aware, thou art found, and also caught, because thou hast striven against the Lord. The Lord hath opened his armory, and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation.
So take note also that Babylon, the inhabitants of Babylon, will not be aware of what's happening, right, until it's too late. Okay.
For this is the work of the Lord God of hosts in the land of the Chaldeans. Come against her from the utmost border, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly. Let nothing of her be left. Slay all her bullocks, let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them, for their day is come, the time of their visitation. The voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babylon, to declare in Zion the vengeance of the Lord our God, the vengeance of his temple. Call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow. Camp against it round about, let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done, do unto her. For she hath been proud against the Lord, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all her men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith the Lord. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith the Lord God of hosts. For thy day is come, the time that I will visit thee. And the most proud shall stumble and fall, and none shall raise him up. And I will kindle a fire in his cities, and it shall devour all round about him. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land, and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. The sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith the Lord, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars, and they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon their horses, and upon their chariots, and upon all the mingled people that are in the midst of her. And they shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. For it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon their idols. Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owl shall dwell therein. And it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. They shall hold the bow and the lance.
So before we continue, I'm going to reread that. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. Keep that in mind.
They are cruel, and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. The king of Babylon hath heard the report of them, and his hands waxed feeble. Anguish took hold of him, and pangs, as of a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong. But I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is a chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord, that he hath taken against Babylon, and his purposes, that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babylon, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the nations.
All right, so I wanted to play that again. I know we heard it before, but it's going to become relevant as we move on. But understand this, when we look at the prophecies concerning Babylon, some people try to tie this to the ancient captivity with Daniel and all of this stuff, but it's obvious that it's in the future, and it's tied to Revelation, where we're dealing with mystery Babylon. This is why the Bible has, Jeremiah 50 and 51 is completely different if you look at the nuances of the scripture. And, we've already proved in other videos that we're really dealing with is the United States, in our opinion. So I'm going to share this video here. Now, why this video is going to be important is because of what I think is happening. And you have to look at the accumulation of evidence, right? Not just one thing. It's the accumulation of evidence. So we're going to look at this video, and we're going to discuss a few things as we move along.
Along a roadway in southern Mexico, a seemingly endless stream of people making their way on foot towards the United States. Men, women, and children walking through pouring rain and sweltering heat. They come from across Latin America, places like Venezuela, Cuba, and Colombia, all with the same goal: immigration to the U.S.
We left Colombia because of the homophobia. We both got physically and verbally attacked. We had to cross the Darien jungle and trails through many xenophobic countries.
It's the latest and one of the largest migrant caravans to make the nearly 2,000-mile trek north through Mexico. The group's journey began Monday in the city of Tapachula. Organizers claim there are nearly 15,000 migrants in the caravan, but authorities in Mexico estimate it's closer to 5,000. Robinson Reyes is making the desperate journey and says the current policy, in which migrants process their paperwork in southern Mexico rather than at the U.S. border, is not working quickly enough.
We've been here for almost a month, and they haven't solved anything regarding the humanitarian visa. We want a future for our families. We are not violent. We just want a better future for our families.
The caravan setting off on the very same day that world leaders from across the hemisphere meet in Los Angeles at the Summit of the Americas. It's the first time the U.S. has hosted the triennial conference since it began in Miami in 1994. But this year's summit kicking off with controversy over a number of exclusions. The United States refusing to invite leaders from Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua.
The president's principled position is that we do not believe that dictators should be invited.
Prompting leaders like the president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, to skip the conference and send a representative instead.
No puede haber cumbre de las Américas si no participan todos los países del continente americano.
Now the presidents of Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala following suit, announcing they too would not attend the summit.
Señor presidente de la República, el doctor Alejandro Yamatei, no asistirá a la Cumbre de las Américas.
The absence of the countries from which many of the migrants originate threatening to derail the goals of the summit. And while some leaders are opting not to attend, the White House is moving forward with the summit, hoping to continue with the planned agenda, focusing on migration, COVID, and economics. President Joe Biden is expected to arrive in Los Angeles on Wednesday.
All right, so we have the migrant crisis, and then we also have the Summit of the Americas, which happened this past week. I believe it ended yesterday. And so understand what's happening here. This is my opinion. What's happening here is and we've seen this year after year after year, these migrants coming to the borders, right? And this is one of the biggest ones that's happening. But let me share this article with you, and we're going to sort of have a discussion, a comment on this migrant crisis. All right, so this is Mexican president calls for American superstate open borders. Mexico's president is reviving calls for a continental superstate that will combine North American employers and South American employees and sideline tens of millions of middle-class Americans. I will go in July to visit President Joe Biden at the White House, and I want to discuss with him the issue of the integration of all America. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said at a conference in Mexico's presidential palace. He continued, "My position is that just as how the European community was created, we have to do that in America." So why is this important? Well, some of you all may be young, but us, the ones who have some time on this earth, a little time, I guess, understand that in the past, President George Bush was trying to unite Mexico, the United States, and Canada. And they were going to build a highway all the way from Mexico to Canada, but that was stopped. Now, I believe what's happening is, as you look what's happening post-pandemic, is the uniting of the global world governmental system. And it's not happening as good as they want to, because the World Health Organization, they were trying to unite that and put all of the nations under the WHO, but that was defeated for 2 years. They're coming back in 2 years. All right, so I believe what's happening is that, and this is just my opinion, and I'm gonna get comments from Minister Tayu and Brother Asap before we continue. My opinion is that's what's happening is that America has been given away. The agreement has been made behind the scenes that America is going to be apportioned off, and Mexico going to get some of their land back, and China's going to get some of the land in America, and other nations are going to get some of this land in America, because it's going to be a part of the global new world order. Now, in my opinion, the new world order, or let's say the new world order, is going to be the 10-toe kingdom, right? Not this one monolithic system that the United States was trying to create, right? So let me get your opinion, Minister Tayu, before we continue.
Yeah. Well, I think wasn't it Biden who basically said, like, if the reset happens, that you have to surrender all of your right to property and all of that, right? And I think under the reset, I think all of this is set up for the reset. Under the reset, there's no problem with opening the borders, right? Because it's going to be totally run by an oligarchy system globally, right? So you're gonna get your little what is it, meal ticket for the week. Your credit score, your social credit score, going to determine your status level in the system. So I don't think they have a problem now with immigration. I think they want it. I think it's part of how they're going to try to implement the new order system. I think though that it's going to backfire because Africa is not going to go along with it, and because without Africa going along with it, they don't have control over the land that has the most resources. So you can't run this world system without having total absolute control over Africa, and I think that's going to be their Achilles heel.
What's your thoughts about this migration effort here, Brother Asa?
Well, it's happening here as well, but our government is clamping down on it. It is one of the key signs that of the end time that there will be people going to and fro from place to place. And my view is that they need to implement a one world government, but it's not working so well. And we, as believers, should take note of what is happening, but it's gone over a lot of people's head.
So one of the things, and thank you, Brother Asaph and Minister T. So one of the things I'm looking at is while we're having this issue here with the migrants, right? Because it's obvious that they're letting them in, right? I mean, come on, anybody with any common sense know that the government is allowing them to come in. And if the government is allowing them to come in, it's part of an agenda, right? Why? Because there will be no more borders. Now, the question is this: you have to think like the globalists, right? I'm nowhere near as smart as them because I say they're evil geniuses, but I also think that they're being led by fallen angels. Okay. But you have to think like the evil geniuses. All right. So America will not, let's say, America will not just hand over sovereignty. The right-wing Christians alone will pull up their AR-15s and everything and prevent any handing over of this nation through a diplomatic process. Right? So America has to be conquered. America has to be overthrown. Right? So if you have, and I'm not saying there is, if you have people within the government who are working with the globalists, who are working with the Chinese, who are working with other nations to overthrow America, because America will never become a part of a global government willingly, and because America is well armed, you have to overthrow it. You have to conquer it. So therefore, if you have people within the American government, right, who are pro-world government, pro-who, then they're going to have to betray America, right? So as you know, America don't belong to black folks. America don't belong to the Israelites. We don't have a say-so in nothing. We're not a threat. But the white man is a threat. Why? Because he got a bunch of weapons. They say behind every blade of grass will be a gun, and that's true, right? So how do you incorporate America and overthrow the people with the guns? Well, one, you take away their food supply, right? We having food issues now, right? You got processing plants being destroyed, right? You have droughts happening, right? Just like we see in Jeremiah 50, right? All the mingled people here, you can see when all these things kick off, are going to do just like what happened in Jeremiah and flee. But what's really interesting is what I'm going to show next. And there's a few videos from the same brother. And, he's pretty good at getting this type of information. So I'm going to share with you some of the information he has. And some of you all may have seen it, but we're going to discuss this because if what is being mentioned in this particular video is true, if the information is accurate, then in my opinion, we're seeing Jeremiah 50 and 51 coming to pass. And based upon the process of things, I mean, I really think based upon what I'm seeing, this could happen at any time, right? Maximum 3 years, right? That's my thought, right? Because remember, under the Deagle website, the American population will be reduced to, I think it was, what was it? from 300 something million to 150 million or less, something like that, right? Y'all remember the Deagle report? We talked about that. So let's look at this video. And like I say, if this is true, some of this information, then stick a fork in it, America.
Of Russia raiding next to U.S. coast July 1st, and we're going to break down the scenarios and how it's going to go, what they're actually doing. And this was the buildup that they used in order to get to Ukraine. So this is going to be critical situation here. And you think Chinese subs is just the only thing off the coast? Well, it's going to be more than that. And we're going to tell you where these drills are going, how this thing is going to build up, and the fact that the leaders that run this country are not trying to do much about it just shows you the pure, absolute setup that is occurring right in front of our eyes. It was just not that long ago where a top commander warned that it was going to be south of the border where the main conflict was going to happen, not just with China, but with Russia. And as we go into this, Nicaragua was the one who authorized troops. We told you yesterday. We're going to go deeper into it, though. And they already got a bunch of Russian tanks there. They got over 50 of them. So with that being said, that is a pivotal exercise point to what could be used in this situation. And so Russia says the measure is routine and the troops will be in Nicaragua for purpose of training, law enforcement, or emergency response. So we're going to go into here. Where is it going to be at? We're going to pull up the map and everything else as other troops are getting prepared in Arctic regions where troops in, the military has, HARP and everything else at. So, and this is where those strange little, charging pods are at too, where those tic tac things we said Russia could have been one of the people using the tic tac looking objects. This is one of their military bases in the Arctic. Now, it's a lot of crazy stuff going on there. Lots of different creatures and everything else we could talk about in another video. But let's stick with this. What is going to be happening here? It's not just going to be from July. It's going to be from July. I believe it goes all the way up till December. So that means they're going to be deployed there for the rest of 2022, getting ready for whatever they think they're getting prepared for, which we already know. Nicaragua sent soldiers to Russia in exchange exercise. And we're going to go deeper into it here and read this for you. So off the background, we'll just play a little clip as we talk about this. So getting into this report, the president of Nicaragua, Daniel Ortega, authorized the departure to Russia 50 Nicaraguan soldiers on a rotating basis to participate in exchange exercises and military instruction training and humanitarian aid operations from July 1st to December 31st. Going into the next part here, we'll talk about it with it on the screen. In addition to participating in operations against illicit in the Caribbean Sea and in the Nicaraguan Pacific Ocean, training elite force of the Army and Transmission Corps in matter of operational communication, the Russian military will participate in exercise, training, and exchange of humanitarian aid. And like we said, emergency situations. What emergency situation could that be? Now let's take a look at this really quick. Here's the map. Here's the Caribbean Sea right there. As you look at that, that's literally not far from where Cuba is at, and not far from where Florida is at, not far from the Gulf of Mexico. That's where these drills will be taking place. And so moving on into what will actually be happening in the drills. Likewise, authorized entry of 50 Russian military personnel on rotating basis to participate in members of the Naval Force, Air Force Transmission Corps in exchange of experience in operational communication with ships and aircraft of the Nicaraguan Army in task confrontation to fight against drug and organized crime. So they're going to be using ships and they're going to be using aircrafts all in that Caribbean Sea area as they get ready for the ramp up of the operations that are going to be happening. And so it's another one we have to read to you here. And this one goes in to say that also the entry of troops, ships, and aircraft of Russian armed forces to participate in operations as well. And so in the Pacific Ocean, in Nicaraguan Sea as well, according to Presidential Decree number 10/2022, published in the official Gazette. So, meaning they won't just have Nicaraguan forces ships, they also will come in with their own, obviously, as well. So, this is the build-up cycle right here that we're dealing with. And this pivotal area shows you that they're obviously going to be probing next to the U.S. border to see what responses they can push. So the buildup in Ukraine, we've seen how that worked. It's the same buildup right now that they're pulling at the same time. People are going to try to say, oh, well, that's been happening, you know. But again, they do it because it's been the plan for years, and that's why they want the buildup. So as we watch this happen, as you see it all transpire, we will give you more dire information on these reports. Remember,
All right, so this is the brother. I don't know what his name is, but it's JWTV, and he has a lot of good information. Good channel, nothing but facts. You know, he'll give his opinion a little bit on some stuff, which I like that too. But it's a good channel just if you want to stay up to date on the news. Now, one of the things he said in this particular video is that what's happening, and as you can see, Russia, China, and all of them having relationships with Latin American countries, Nicaragua, Venezuela, different people like that, sending troops there, military vehicles. There's an exercise that's going to be happening with Nicaragua. Remember what happened during the time before Russia invaded Ukraine. They had a exercise. The U.S. does the same thing, right? They have exercises before they do anything. And so Russia is going to be having an exercise with Nicaragua, but there's a lot of other things going on at the same time. Now, if they're going to be true to form and have an exercise, I'm not saying anything will happen, but apparently the time frame for a lot of this stuff is between July 1st and December. Right now, I'm not saying anything will happen in that time frame. Yeah, Steven Jackson, that's his name. Thank you. Yeah, the brother name is Steven Jackson. And so understand that I don't know for sure, but here's the thing. I'm gonna go back to Jeremiah 50 because according to Jeremiah 50, this is the scenario we should expect, right? So verse 9, for lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, right? I would say this is Russia, right? It also could be considerate of China as well, because they right up there by Russia. But an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken, their arrow shall be as of a mighty expert man, and none shall return in vain. So we would expect to see this, Russia, China. I haven't heard anything about Iran, but we would expect to see these nations start to surround the United States of America. Brother Asaph, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, we've also forgotten about North Korea as well.
Yeah, that too, exactly.
And that too, with that type of strategic planning, they could walk into the United States without the United States realizing what's happened.
Yeah, yep, exactly. Let's see, Yacoba tell you, remember the guy talking about the dream he had of a white slave market? Yeah, that's true too. And there was, remember also the video I had of the brother who was black from Japan. His dream, I think, was supposed to be around, I think, July or August or something like that, right? Big Red, what's your thoughts on this?
What's good? What's good? It was July 4th for the dream that he had. Yeah. And just, it's interesting. Again, I ain't saying nothing is happening, but these drills are happening July the 1st.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is something that's been going on for a while, and this is the same thing they did before they came in on Ukraine. They ran drills, and that gave them the excuse to put all the military equipment all around it. But this is going down. Like this is the verse even says it right there with the arrows never coming back. China and Russia both have hypersonic missiles, And these hypersonic missiles are unlike anything that America has. And they can't block hypersonic missiles either, because it's not just their speed. They have AI built into them, so they move around. So NORAD and all that stuff is going to be basically not effective, because these missiles are beyond anything America got.
Yeah, that's right. Minister T, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I just say, military deployment, the logistics of it all is a complex task. It takes a long time, but under the guise of a exercise, right, you can move those military forces without suspicion. I mean, not that your opponent, on a government level wouldn't really be keeping an eye on you, but there's nothing they can do about it. Right. So you can stage and position your military forces under the guise of an exercise. Next thing you know, you're in a war.
So, Minister T, what do you think in terms of the connection to Jeremiah 50? Do you see a connection there?
As far as the nation being surrounded, I mean, it's very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a nation from the land of the north. I mean, far north from here is Russia, right? And, China's sort of northeast, I guess. But all of these nations, and, the Bible says, and their allies, right, are going to surround Babylon. And, we've been saying for the longest what was going to happen. And it seems to be working out that way, right? It seems to be working out that way. So I'm going to share another video from two more videos really from JWTV, because I mean, why repeat what he already did, right? So let's look at this particular video.
China readying military about 55 miles from the U.S. coastlines. Yep, I just said it. And the strange part is that they've got this facility out there that we're going to talk about that's literally cloning people. And so we're going to show you all this detailed information, but it just lets you know, just recently, about 3 weeks ago, wonder why the military was going in Florida, and they were having these drills where they said, well, in case a government was taken over and we had to, rescue the governor, we need to go ahead and do these drills right in Florida. And so what is the area off the coastlines we're talking about? This area is literally not that far. The area is called the Bahamas, and we're going to go into that and tell you what they've just bought there. We're going to tell you what the operations they're setting up there. We're going to get into it deeply here. And here's the next thing. Guess who's allowed this to happen? Obviously. There shouldn't be any question to that. So that's why this has been a big watch for the military themselves. I'm even going to lay out the maps. I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to show you all the strategic points and stuff like that, because we need to know this, because it's coming our way. And the encirclement thing that I was telling you about, that we looked into Lube Media releasing just the other day, is real. Because even in the drills that was done, they are encircling Taiwan, meaning that they want to shut off the supplies so that America or none of the allies can't get the supplies to Taiwan once the thing go down. But back to the U.S. coast, 55 miles away. Now check this out. Here is the Bahamas, and where China's is strategically set up. So you thought Cuba was the only one who did a security initiative. Well, the Bahamas, they're in the game now, and I'm going to tell you that they're shipping different things there, and they're setting up the operations there. Also, just recently, they've gotten more strategic areas over here as well, trying to build large dry docks to expand Grand Bahama Shipyard. Grand Bahama Shipyard, one of the docks, will be the largest floating dry docks in the Western Hemisphere. They can use that to then militarize it. They always say, hey, we're not going to militarize it, and they do, just like America. But let's read you something really deeply important about what's happening in Bahamas right now. So Chinese shipments of military and police equipment to several Caribbean states could be developing into future People Liberation Army advisory groups. in the Western Hemisphere. China's construction projects already include modernization of airports and seaports, which can increase Chinese geopolitical and military influence in the region. Chinese Defense Minister Wei Fenghe already is on record expressing China's willingness to deepen military cooperation with Caribbean countries. So that's literally what's already been talked about. And then you go into this part, and competition with China is three-dimensional game, and if we continue to play two-dimensional chess, we will lose. Nice three-dimensionals. Dimensions are military, economic, and social, but there is a regional important subset to the three regional concerns. So 55 miles off the coast, China is setting up their operations, and here's the planes I was telling y'all about earlier that, you know, the U.S. military supposedly is flying. That's basically China's Air Force planes, but Taiwan is using them. I have looked up and seen some weird planes recently, and so we just wanted to let you know about that. Now, here's another real little creepy, strange thing, super creepy, strange. And if we go deeper into this, in the Bahamas, guess what else is out there? I say, guess what else? But I mean, guess what else? It's this cloning facility out there, right where China is positioned at, and it's called Clonaid. And
Minister Yacoba, what happened to the sound?
Oh, I'm sorry, I had it muted. So I'm gonna pause it right there.
Okay.
Right. So you know, the whole idea of the Clone Wars in Star Wars, someone mentioned that. You know, we discussed that in the Order 66 video, which is tied to the Jedi and all this, the whole story of the Inquisition, stuff like that. But it's interesting that, you know, we'll look at things like this about Clonaid, and as Steven Jackson talks about in the video about, you know, the analogy to the Star Wars, and the clones were they were making clones in the Star Wars movies. For those who don't know, they were making clones for the military so that the Empire can use it, you know, to fight right against the who was it? Not the y'all the better Star Wars fans than me, but whoever that
Palpatine had him created so that he would have an army set up. So when he did Order 66, he'd be able to take over everything with an already established army.
Yeah, but the idea was for them to fight against Dooku and his forces, the robot. What would they name the I forgot whoever they were, but anyway, so understand this, that all of these things, you know, they look like fantasy, but now they're coming to pass, right? We're seeing all these things. And so China, as you saw, is positioning themselves as well, what, around the United States. So Russia has all of these exercises going on, aligning themselves with Nicaragua and everyone. China as well. China setting up positions at ports, things like that. Is it a coincidence? Panel, what are your thoughts on this? Anybody?
I had put a link in the private chat. That's this thing. They've been talking about China and them clones for a long time. 2 years ago, Gravitas, the WEON channel, the Indian channel for media, they did a thing talking about how they were making genetically modified soldiers, and they were making basically Iron Man suits. They were making suits for them to like help them climb hard geography, to help them carry heavier stuff. They've been talking about China doing this for a long time, and it's been allowed. America's been sold out. I tell every time I talk to a white conservative, I say, y'all got sold out. I tell them straight up. I'm like, America's been sold out. Yep. When you look at how it's so funny, Disney will pander for Pride Month for all of them, and they'll pander for Black Lives Matter. But when they released the Star Wars movie that they just recently made, I think it was the I can't remember because they were so bad. But the one new one they had just re-released, they removed Finn, the black character, off the thing. All the posters that had him on there, they took him off because China don't like black folks. So they got all the Marvel movies were paid for by China. The movie with, I forget, it's the movie with Rihanna in it, the one Battlefield movie, or it's one of them movies where China like comes in and helps save the day. That's because China helped back the movie. So they've been putting all this stuff in these movies for the past 10, 15 years in America straight out of China. The NBA, listen to China. The one dude, the one, I forget, the Kings owner, I believe, he spoke out against them the way they're doing the Uyghurs, and the NBA themselves shut him up. LeBron James, which is why I really don't care for him now, came out and was like, oh, that was dangerous. That was terrible. Oh, you could have got people hurt. How? By saying that the Uyghurs were bad? How was that hurted? So they've been sold out for a long time. All these American companies, they cater to China. Tesla literally did a pump and dump in Bitcoin last year because China stopped doing Bitcoin. China outlawed Bitcoin and they're making their own blockchain. And around that same time, Tesla dropped Bitcoin.
Well, you know, it's interesting though that you know, let me ask you all. You all watched the Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus?
Well, you know I do.
Yeah, I know you do. What about you, Red? And that's ASAP.
I missed it. I only watched one episode.
I can't watch nothing Disney do now. they push too much of this. They push too much nonsense in their stuff, man. I can't watch none of that stuff, man.
But you know, what's interesting in the latest episode, they had a guy. I don't know if that was Ice Cube's son or not. He looked like Ice Cube, but he looked a little bit overweight. But anyway, in that they were talking about how he suffered under what the empire had done to them, right? Same thing with sort of like I mentioned about the black woman. You know, she's an inquisitor, and I mentioned in you know, one of my videos about how the inquisitors, how, you know, they were involved in hunting their own people, just like she's doing, right? She was a former Jedi, you know. And so anyway, a lot of these stories seem to be like circling around again, right? We just have different players, you know, in the real world, but I'm like, somebody's messing with our minds, right? I mean, because I'm like, I'm not seeing all of this just as coincidence. And, you know, I talk to my son sometime about the whole One Piece thing, and how in One Piece, the same thing, you know, they got the one world government, you got the void century, you got the people who being persecuted, which is the fish people. I'm like, all of this stuff keeps circling around. I'm like, I'm not crazy. I'm not just seeing something that's not there. Right. But when we look at this right now, and I know, Brother Asaph, you want to say something. What is your thoughts in terms of, you know, we're obviously seeing the positioning of troops. I'm like, I mean, are we crazy, Brother Asaph, or are we just imagining things?
We're not crazy at all. I wish Covenant Awakenings was on, you know, because he's more of a military person than I am. But I'm telling you, it's not looking good at all. And it's going to catch a lot of people asleep. China and Russia and all the countries that hate Babylon have a long-term memory, and they carry grudges for hundreds and hundreds of years. Whatever you do to them, they don't remember, and they carry on that spirit of revenge for generations. And America and the Europeans have done some awful things to the Chinese, you know, like the opium trade and other stuff, you know, where they made the Chinese drug addicts and had to submit to them. And they haven't forgotten how they teamed up and went into China. And China wants to teach them a lesson. And just like how they kicked out the Japanese, you know, when the Japanese came in, but they weren't able to colonize Japan, they intend to beat and humiliate America completely. They're more advanced technologically. They even have developed a defense system for any hypersonic weapons that America or the UK can use using AI already. I read that sometime and somewhere this week.
So the scriptures state that the 10 shall hate the whore and burn her with fire. Now, I know in the past, I think we all sort of look at, you know, Americans just being all on one accord and all wanting to keep the empire in power, right? But it's obvious that America, as Big Red was saying, America has been betrayed. And there are people here. You know, the Bible talks about fanners, right? That fanners would be sent to the U.S. And I think America has been betrayed by people who work within the government and people who are allied with the government. And I think the true enemy is the American people themselves. And I think, in my opinion, at least from what I'm seeing, and if everything continues as it is, America can stick a fork in it. They're done. And if I'm correct, that what we're seeing is Jeremiah 50:51, right? A lot of their children are going to disappear, right? A lot of their children are going to be trying to fight back, and then they're going to cower. That's what the Bible teaches. What do you all think in terms of the prophetic implications of what we're seeing? Because there's another piece I'm going to show about this video, and you know, JW, I'm using his because he has like a short clip of it, but I think it was like over like maybe an hour or something, the whole video, or I don't know if it was, you know, how long it was, but it was longer than a minute. But there was a meeting, and we're going to show this, of the Chinese talking about how they're going to take over Taiwan and how they're going to handle America. So prophetically speaking, panel, what's your thoughts on this? Does this look like it's conforming to Jeremiah 50:51 to you all?
Well, I just wanted to comment on those in the government system that, you know, you mentioned that have infiltrated. I think it's probably been infiltrated since at least the Civil War. And you can tell, you know, when a lot of people don't know that Prescott Bush tried to overthrow the U.S. government. And Smedley Butler investigated it, and somehow it all just disappeared. And then you had George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. become president. So that tells you the level, who's running the government and how long they've been running it. Because Prescott Bush should have been arrested for treason, but they actually made it disappear. So the conspiracy is, you know, very deep.
I forgot all about that one. That's a good point, Minister, to you.
Todd Wilson made a really good point, because you already kind of see that happening, like I was saying with Tesla, about how these companies are going to be under Chinese rule. And this all really lies right there in the scripture, because they all have a beef. It's just like you said, they all have a long memory. And it's not just China. Venezuela has got real big beef with America. Their whole failure happened because of America. When gas started to go up, gas was pretty much the primary thing Venezuela was leaning on. America started slinging tariffs at them and purposely threw their economy into the gutter that it's in right now. They purposely did that with tariffs. All the countries that they're working with in that alliance all got beef with America. Mexico is not a big fan of America. You know, Cuba don't like America at all. All those countries is not feeling America. And it's whether, you know, there's a lot of folks in America, especially these conservatives and even some non-conservatives, they have this American exceptionalism mindset where they think that these countries are just mediocre and they're dumb and they can't handle America. But they got to understand, they thinking about America back in like the 70s and the 80s. This is a decrepit, far weaker, more just ridiculous America. Like I showed them one thing a long time ago with their whole recruiting vehicle, the recruiting movies, where China and Russia's recruitment videos are like, yeah, and then America talking about this girl with her 2 moms. That's not gonna win their war.
Well, you know, as we saw in that immigration video, 2 of the women were proud, if you know what I'm saying. 2 of the women were proud, and and that's America, right? And it once again, it shows to me, at least, the systematic dismantling of this nation, right? And the Gentiles have no understanding. That's why the Bible says they're going to be unaware. But we're here. The Bible says that we are going to know. The people that know the God, that know their Savior, they're going to know.
So,
right? They're
Minister
not going to be
Jacob,
caught unawares. Yeah.
what do you say to the Israelites that say, I'm going to ride this bad boy out?
How are they going to ride it out?
They say they're going to ride it out.
I don't understand
they're not fleeing. They're not going to Africa or wherever. They're going to ride it out. And I'm thinking it's because they got a different doctrine. Maybe they got a different idea on how end times plays out.
Oh yeah, they're waiting on that rapture. I know that. They still got that Eurocentric doctrine. Oh, that's not Eurocentric.
I think this was more of a camp kind of doctrine.
I don't know. I mean, how you gonna ride it out? I mean, the Bible says that, you know, nobody's gonna be living here but demons, and the land gonna be uninhabitable, and sounds like nukes to me. I'm just saying. I just think maybe they don't believe that, you know, because a lot of people don't believe that Jeremiah 50:51 has to do with America. They still think it's Iraq.
Well, I mean, when the judgment comes, they're gonna be in the midst of it no matter what. I mean, we do see things happening now that does not look like a time of peace, right? So, I mean, it doesn't even make sense to try to stay in the system. I mean, you're gonna go fight for Mystery Babylon? I mean, that's your option, is to be drafted and go fight for her.
The only other thing can be is that they don't believe that we're in those times. They don't believe that everything we're seeing is prophetic. They don't believe that the plagues are prophetic. They don't believe the earthquakes are prophetic. They don't believe that the droughts are prophetic. They don't believe that the shortages of food is prophetic. I don't know what it takes for people to wake up. I really don't.
Some of them do believe.
Yeah, go ahead, Big Red. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say some of them do believe, but they just got that Eurocentric belief that, oh, this is happening because of the Roe versus Wade, and this is happening because of all these things, and Jesus is gonna come back and stop us and stop Biden, and he's gonna save all us good people and take us back. So some of them is thinking that, you know, Jesus is gonna come and save them from the Chinese. So
yeah. Oh well, so let me play this video. This is interesting. This was a meeting supposedly. Now, I'm of the opinion this was, released on purpose. There's this Chinese woman who's supposed to be a former doctor or whatever from China, and she used to live in Hong Kong. And supposedly she's part of this kind of network. And I'm not getting all into this, but that's how this particular video got out. Right now, go try to get a video like that out in the Pentagon, right? I'm like, you know, it's obvious that they released this video on purpose because they wanted to send a message. But I'm gonna share it. Like I said, this is JW again, TV, and he had a clip on it and some comments. So.
I think I'm going to come back in, but let's just get into it.
接收国家动员军和重大问题，先请张总统传达国家动员令和国务院、中央军委关于
战略决胜动员准备，南海方向重点是补兵员、保前推、保装载、保航渡、保登岛；南海方向重点是补盲区、维权益、原运输，坚持把科技动员摆到动员之前。
美西方必极力对我污蔑抹黑，妄图混淆是非，动摇我方，充分发挥舆论法理斗争和心理攻防民兵对话作用，加强公众舆论引导和心理防护，凝聚爱国拥军。
All right, I'm gonna pop on in. We done with the ching talk, but second, give full play to advantage of the People's War. Fully learn from experience of epidemic prevention and control in previous years. Fully mobilized grassroots, widely mobilized cadres and masses organized military, police, civilian forces launch grid control, creating an atmosphere of national preparedness. What could they mean by that one? Improve people's ability to withstand war disasters so that the enemies and spies have no place to hide. And then he said, Governor, are you on my side? Or any other comments? And he says, no, please make up your mind, Commander. Just now the Command and Control Center proposed. Well, they just went over. Now they get into nuclear and chemical forces, where they were saying we need to have a rescue team of nuclear chemical forces because our internal team doesn't have as many people. So basically saying that they needed to get this decision for the implementation of the rescue operations, the chemical nuclear situations that I guess they were preparing for. Second, use the network protection forces. In principle, network protection should mainly be done by its own security team, they say. So when they said national grid control, and also you heard them say that they wanted to pretty much implement technological troops. What? So basically, in response, they're saying, I mean, they already had the biologically enhanced super soldiers and all this weird crap, but basically, it's probably, you know, troops that they said was augmented. And we're going to go a little bit deeper into this scenario for you.
All right. So, you know, they supposedly released this video, or somebody on the inside released this video to the world. And, you know, to me, I don't believe anything gets released unless they want it to be released. Nobody makes those type of mistakes anymore because this process is in place. Neither is it easy to get a camera or recording device in there, or if you didn't want it to go out, there wouldn't be any recordings of the session anyway. So this obviously was being released. Now, a lot of the right wing think that this particular Chinese woman is, you know, for freedom and for America and stuff like that. I believe she fulfills one of the prophecies, not the prophecies, but, well, yeah, the prophecies of the ones who come in as fanners. I think she's one of the ones who's coming in to deceive them. And I think the right wing is going to be ready with their AR-15s. They're going to try to take the guns away from them. And notice he mentioned that they were going to get control of the grid. I don't take anything as coincidence. So I don't know if you all know, but, you know, they're talking about, because of this summer, there's going to be brownouts, right? And blackouts. And, you know, because, you know, they're not going to be able to handle the load on the grid. Is that true? Because remember, I mean, we're talking about a time frame from everything that we're hearing of, you know, July 1st to December. So just so happens that they're talking about blackouts and stuff like that. Now, let's assume America gets invaded. I'm theoretical. Let's say they invade Florida, right? Florida has a blackout, no communication, troops come in. Same thing with New York. Have a blackout, no communication. You know, we had a blackout. We were expecting it, and troops come in. America will have been taken, and no one will even know. And it's obvious that America has traitors in the inside of it. Do I care? No, because America, you know, they're the one that enslaved us and our ancestors. So, hey, let the judgment come, because the Most High says this is the time of his vengeance. I'm just seeing that this is lining up with Jeremiah 50:51. And you know, before we close out, I'm gonna play Jeremiah 51 again so you could hear that. For you could decide what you want to do when the time comes. And if you want to sit on your laurels and wait and deal with the Chinese that in all of these people, that's on you. But there's gonna be a time of escape. So what do you all think about that video with the Chinese talking about how they're going to handle the U.S., how they're going to handle Taiwan? I'm like, all of this stuff coming out now, right? And the intensity between the West and Russia and China is increasing. And obviously we're being surrounded. The Bible says they're going to be an array against Babylon. I'm just saying, do you all, and let me go back to my first question, because I don't, none of y'all answered it. Do you all think that it ties into Jeremiah 50:51? Does it tie into Revelation as well, dealing with the fall of Babylon?
Absolutely do. Absolutely do. Like you were saying before, it said that they had hated America. And that's why I brought up Venezuela earlier, because Venezuela got a beef with America. All the nations that are arrayed and tied up with Russia and China, they all got beef with America. Iran, the Saudis, like all of them are all lining up and they all teaming up. I mean, you literally see it happening. I mean, China and Russia just built a bridge that connected their two shores, and now they got like trade and stuff going on. And they've already been talking about hacking the grid. Like there was already I can't remember, this one Russian group that had already hacked the grid like years ago. and they had already had jumped into the grid and had did some stuff into the grid. If you remember, I think in 2020 they had already hacked the grid, and they said they paid a Bitcoin thing out to them and caught the people that had hacked it. But if they've already hacked it once, they're already in there in the system. There was a company called Mt. Gox that something similar happened to. They got hacked and they stayed in the system, and then later on, while they were there in the system, they thought everything was good, but they were still in there doing stuff. So they've already got into our system already before. This is the same thing. This is what we're seeing. The same thing like with them they talk about the Babylon, how everybody teamed up against the whore and how she sat on many waters, but all the different folks came together and then brought her down. That's what we're seeing right now. Like America's, got all the bases everywhere, but they are looking weak as ever right now. And all these countries are seeing blood in the water and they teaming up.
Thanks, Big
Yeah.
Red.
So yeah, I like that reference of blood in the water, because when they smell blood, right, that's when all the fish come and attack. It reminds me of Alonzo in Training Day. And Alonzo, the big bad boy bully, everybody fears him. He can walk in everywhere he wants to. I mean, don't forget, this nation was founded by overthrowing and conquering literally almost every nation on the planet. I mean, between Britain and the United States together, I mean, they've conquered every nation. That's why you don't see any pushback. They're like Alonzo in Training Day. Right, he walk in there and Alonzo expect you to obey, and that's what we have with the American system. The Mystery Babylon, the harlot. She expects her will to be done, right? Because she spent time conquering India, China, right, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Korea, everywhere, right? So she put her system in place, and she said, do what I say. What's that? I'm King Kong. However Alonzo said, right? And all of a sudden, when they smell blood, when they see Alonzo is weak, the little guys start banding together. And that's what I see happening here, is that they smell blood. Alonzo looks weak, or Mr. Babylon, the mother harlot, looks weak, and they think that they can band together. So that's what I'm seeing.
What's your thoughts, Brother Asaph? What's your thoughts specifically about that Chinese video and them planning to take over Taiwan and their plans against the West?
Well, the Chinese don't make idle threats, and their leader has the same psychological profile as the first emperor of China, that was a warmonger, and it's the same thing again, history repeating itself, and we haven't got the power to deliver ourselves. So the Almighty Yah will use these people to destroy Babylon, and Babylon is in a lot of problems at the moment, and they know it. They're behind the Chinese technologically, and coincidentally, earlier this week I read Jeremiah 50 and 51, and I read Revelation 14, and it's playing out right in front of our face right now.
So the thing that gets me is, when we look at everything that's happening, how long could any nation survive or last based upon what we're seeing? Okay, I mean, we're seeing the whole CRT thing. We're seeing the killing of the Israelites, the blacks, right? We're seeing the killing of them by the Gentiles. We're seeing the reduction in water supply in the U.S. We're seeing food shortages. We're seeing processing plants being destroyed. We're seeing the relationship amongst their allies being weakened. We're seeing issues between the U.S., China, and Russia. We're seeing that we're going to have electrical grid problems. We have the so-called pandemic. We have people having after effects because of that. And you know what I'm saying. How long can a nation survive with all these things? I'm like, I just don't see it. It's impossible, right? So And let's not forget gas going up, right? People getting to the point where they can't even afford to fill up their gas tank. It's either fill up the gas tank or buy food, right? How can a nation survive? It is the systematic destruction of a nation. And we have warned and warned and warned, and the Gentiles are waiting for their rapture. They're waiting for their rapture while all this stuff happens. So I'm going to play Jeremiah 51, and I'm going to have final comments on this, and then we can have final comments. All right, here we go.
Jeremiah 52. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem.
Hold on, family.
And his mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter. Jeremiah 51. Thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will raise up against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me, a destroying wind, and will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigadine. And spare ye not her young men, destroy ye utterly all her hosts. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are thrust through in her streets. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God of the Lord of hosts. Though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel, flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity.
So before we continue with that, let me ask you all, panel, what are we supposed to do here? Are we supposed to just sit here and wait? The Bible says, flee out of the midst of Babylon, deliver every man his soul, be not cut off for her iniquity. I'm just saying, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to listen to these people who say, well, just sit here, I'm going to wait? I'm just saying, what do y'all think? I need some opinions on this one.
Let me back it up with Revelation, right? I posted this in the patron section, right? But y'all want confirmation of what's happening here. Revelation 18:4-8. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, who? My people. Who's that? Israel. That ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. Who's her? Mystery Babylon, right? She's about to get dealt with. So Revelation 18:4 clearly is telling you to come out of her right now. What method will that be? It seems like you actually have to make a decision. Revelation 18:5, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God had remembered her iniquities. Reward her, Mystery Babylon, even as she has rewarded you. Who's you? Israel. Israel's now in a position to what? Reward Mystery Babylon the same way that she had rewarded them, and double unto her double, according to her works. In the cup which she had filled, fill her to her double. So now, this is Israel has the ability to reward her with double, which is enslavement, just like she had did to her. I mean, just like she did to Israel, Israel will do to her. Right. So if we look at Revelation 18:4, that reaffirms what you just was talking about, Minister Jacobo, about leaving.
So before we continue, let me get your opinion on this, Big Red and Brother Asaph. Are we supposed to stay here or flee? I'm sorry. Am I reading something different here? Am I not understanding what the Bible is telling us to do? Because it does say flee his people. I'm confused because some people say we're not.
I put it, the way I look at it is, I know some people don't have the ability to go. You know, there's just not possible for them to leave because unfortunately, not, you know, the way the system is set up, it keeps us particularly down. So financially, some people may not be able to go. If you're financially able, I don't see the problem in, you know, going out there and then just, you know, I've been seeing a lot of us already leaving and being far more prosperous over in Africa than they are here. One of the things that I mainly get out of that scripture, though, one thing that Yah has been dealing with me a lot with is making sure that I'm not partaking, like come out of her as far as her ways, how they think, and their system, to get my life together, to be not rolling with this sinful nonsense, which is why I really haven't been watching any of the movies and stuff. It's just because Yah has been just pulling me away from a lot of this stuff, and I've just been identifying a lot of things in Babylon that I just want no more parts of, things that I just don't want to deal with no more. And I believe that's one of the more crucial ways that Yah is saying for us to come up out of the ways of Babylon, because the more separated from Babylon you are, then when you get into the wilderness, it's not going to be that big of a deal for you, because you already got your mind and your spirit prepared and ready to flee when Yah begins to make that dry land for us to go over. Because we got to remember, our ancestors had no way to go leave either. They was at the end of the line. They was done. Y'all had to make the way at the end of the day. I do believe that he's going to make the way for a lot of us again in this time. But this whole fleeing is to get us to come out of the system. Are you entertained by Babylon, but still praying for judgment on Babylon? How are you going to be partaking of Babylon's fruit, but still want to wish it death? Because if Babylon's going, then Babylon's TV is going, then Babylon's Starbucks is going, then Babylon's comforts are going, all that stuff that's associated with this system that we don't even realize is just demonic in nature is all going away. So we got to get our minds prepared and set up to be ready for when Yah comes, and we have to walk as that peculiar people, because we ain't going to be acting like how we act over here in Yah's kingdom. That's not how that works. We got to realize we've been born Hellenized and stuff. So I kind of sit in the middle of that argument. I do believe that some people that have the ability to leave, hey, if they want to leave, they don't go. I don't believe in flee doctrine. I think that's dumb. People always want to say, something crazy about what other people are doing. If y'all is telling some people to leave, let them leave. That's fine. They can leave and let them go. Some people that can't go, though, make sure you get your heart and your mind out of this Babylon system. Make sure you're not watching what your kids watch. Watch what you watch. Watch what you partake of. What are you eating of? How you think, how you view business. We got to reconstruct our entire mindset, because capitalism ain't biblical. I'll put it to you, leave it at that.
Well, we're not even saying leaving your own power like some people are able to do, but the Most High has convicted them in their heart to do it. What we're saying is to wait with expectation, trusting the work of the Most High and his promises. So when he does prepare the way, you're ready to go. And so some people are like, well, I'm going to stand here, when he just told you there won't be any life left on this continent. He's going to wipe it out. So at some point, he's going to open the door and make a way. So basically, you should be waiting with expectation for when he fulfills his promises.
I agree.
What's your thought, Brother Asa?
Watch this. In Zechariah chapter 5, it clearly tells you that they'll be flying Megillah, which is a flying missiles. I use the Ashkenazi Hebrew word for missiles, rolls. And it will enter into the house of the thief in verse 4 that swears falsely by my name. And that clearly points out Mystery Babylon again. And I think that the people who are hanging on to the system, like some of my beloved relatives that think that the rapture is going to come and they're going to be gone up to the Shemaim, up to heaven, it's just not going to happen, because it's going to get so hard that our people are going to leave, and also the remnants of whoever's left in Europe here is going to want us to leave as well, because when Babylon falls over there in America, a lot of the people are going to say, oh, my roots is English, my roots is Irish, my roots is German, my roots is French. I'm coming back to where my ancestors were, and they're going to kick us out of the houses that we live in.
Yeah, so my opinion is that, and it's sort of like what Minister Tayu said, for those who have fled and they were able to, God made it where they were able to do it. Some of us can't do it, right, until the time. Now, the reason why I keep bringing this up, because a lot of people want to ignore scripture. This happens all the time. It happens with Christians. They ignore scripture that's contrary to their doctrine. Israelites ignore scriptures that's contrary to their doctrine. My point is we have to deal with the difficult scriptures, right? And this is one of them, dealing with what they call the flee doctrine. Now, the whole idea of fleeing, in my opinion, isn't necessarily that you have to flee right now. But it's like Minister Tayu said, you have to have an expectation of fleeing. Because remember, when the first Exodus occurred, they were led out. They were led out by Moses. I don't think we're going to be led out this time. I think we're going to be in a situation, as I mentioned in one of my previous shows, of immigrants. I think we're going to be leaving like those Ukrainians did, because bombs are going to be falling down, food supplies are going to be shut off, water is going to be shut off. You can already see this happening. Let me ask you all, what are you going to do when you can't get food? You can't go to the store. What are you going to do when you can't get no more clean water? What are you going to do? You have to make plans to go somewhere else, right?
And what are you going to do when the ruling class don't have enough and comes to take what you got?
So this is all we're saying, is that in terms of our theology, we have to be open to the idea that we might initially be refugees. That's all I'm saying. You know, it may happen that way, it may not. But let's continue with this so we can close it out.
For this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go every one into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. The Lord hath brought forth our righteousness. Come, and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord our God. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his devices against Babylon, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon, make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes, for the Lord hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babylon. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. The Lord of hosts hath sworn by himself, saying, Surely I will fill thee with men, as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee. He hath made the earth by his power, he hath established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heaven by his understanding. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapours to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish by his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the work of errors. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. With thee also will I break in pieces man and woman, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers. And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith the Lord. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord, which destroyest all the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundations, but thou shalt be desolate for ever, saith the Lord. Set ye up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her, call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Minai, Ashkenaz, appoint a captain against her. Cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without an inhabitant. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight, they have remained in their holds, their might hath failed. They became as women, they have burned her dwelling places, her bars are broken. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the king of Babylon that his city is taken at one end, and that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire, and the men of war are affrighted. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her. Yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. Nebuchadrezzar the king of Babylon hath devoured me, he hath crushed me, he hath made me an empty vessel, he hath swallowed me up like a dragon, he hath filled his belly with my delicates, he hath cast me out. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon, shall the inhabitant of Zion say, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea, shall Jerusalem say. Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, I will plead thy cause, and take vengeance for thee, and I'll dry up her sea, and make her springs dry. And Babylon shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, an astonishment and an hissing without an inhabitant. They shall roar together like lions, they shall yell as lions' whelps. In their heat I will make their feasts, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice, and sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith the Lord. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. How is Shishak taken, and how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How is Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? The sea is come up upon Babylon, she is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land, and a wilderness, a land wherein no man dwelleth, neither doth any son of man pass thereby. And I will punish Bel in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up. And the nations shall not flow together any more unto him, yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. My people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord. And lest your heart faint, and ye fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land.
Are we at the point where we're hearing the rumors, right? They're saying we're surrounded by Russia, we're being surrounded by China. Are we at the point that, 2 years from now, or 3, whatever it was, a few years from now, it's going to be over for Babylon? Remember, if you all read Josephus, when Jerusalem was being attacked, there were a few false prophets there who said, nothing's going to happen to Jerusalem because the temple is here. God isn't going to do anything. But yet Yeshua told them, when you see what? Jerusalem what? Surrounded by armies, do what? Flee to the mountains. We have another command. When you see Babylon, what? Surrounded by armies, right? They're going to be in array against her. To what? Flee again. See, there's a type in the shadow happening as well against Babylon, just like Rome. When Rome attacked and conquered us in Jerusalem, they surrounded us, and Yeshua told us to flee to the mountains. Same thing happened again, but on the flip, right? Didn't we say the curse is going to go on them? They're going to be surrounded by armies, America, and it tells us to flee, right? So, but there's false prophets who say, no, God's not going to destroy America because we're here. God's not going to destroy America because we're here. Just like they told them, God's not going to destroy the temple because the temple's here. I mean, destroy Jerusalem because the temple is here. Y'all have any comments on that?
That last verse there basically sounds like the last couple of days about the rumors and everything. Like, I think China just a day or so ago already told America that if they interfere with them in Taiwan, they're going to start an all-out war. They just said it straight up that they're going to go to war if they keep messing with them. So this is for people that think that this is not America, how fooled they are, because this is definitely America all day.
I agree.
Yeah, so I want to read Jeremiah 50:34, which Berean Study Bible, right? Their Redeemer is strong. The Lord of hosts is his name. He will fervently plead their case so that he may bring rest to the earth, but turmoil to those who live in Babylon. So that's what's coming to those who choose to stay. Not that you should leave in your own power, but you should be waiting with expectation that he will fulfill the promises that he made.
Any comment, Brother Asaph?
I want to thank you for having me. And in closing, I'd say that the Yahuwah that these guys are expecting is not the one wearing lipstick and rouge. He's from Exodus 15, verse 3. He's a man of war, and he's a person of revenge, as it says in Nahum 1, verse 2, and Romans 13, verse 4. And we can see that America is in definite trouble. We see that over here, and we're quaking in our boots over here because we see that China is on the move and Russia's on the move, and we are going to have to leave the same way like how the Ukrainians are running here and running to the United States to get away from their situation. It's the same thing that's going to happen again. We were devastated in Jerusalem, and we were devastated in Africa when we fled to Africa. They destroyed 100 cities, and we're going to see the same recompense visited upon the United States, and there's nothing that nobody can do. I'm just asking Yahuwah that most of us will wake up and see that there's no future left in Babylon.
Exactly. So let's finish the rest of these verses, and we'll have final comments.
Ruler against ruler. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon, and her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. And the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoilers shall come unto her from the north, saith the Lord. As Babylon hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. Ye that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. Remember the Lord afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. We are confounded because we have heard reproach. Shame hath covered our faces. For strangers are come into the sanctuaries of the Lord's house. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all her land the wounded shall groan. Though Babylon should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith the Lord. The sound of a cry cometh from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans. Because the Lord hath spoiled Babylon, and destroyed out of her the great voice, when her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered. Because the spoiler is come upon her, even upon Babylon, and her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken. For the Lord God of recompenses shall surely requite. And I will make drunk her princes, and her wise men, her captains, and her rulers, and her mighty men. And they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith the King, whose name is the Lord of hosts. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Seraiah, the son of Neraiah, the son of Maaseiah, when he went with Zedekiah the king of Judah into Babylon, in the 4th year of his reign, and this, Seraiah, was a quiet prince. So Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come upon Babylon, even all these words that are written against Babylon. And Jeremiah said to Seraiah, When thou comest to Babylon, and shalt see and shalt read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Lord, thou hast spoken against this place to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of Euphrates. And thou shalt say, Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah.
Yeah, fam, sorry about that noise in the background. So understand this, and this just my closing statements, and then we'll get the rest from the rest of the panel. Jeremiah 51 says, Then shalt thou say, O Lord, thou hast spoken against this place to cut it off, that what? None shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. I mean, whether that's nukes or not, I don't know. Sounds like nukes to me. And that it will spoil the land. So we can't be here. We can't think we're going to be staying here. We have to be in a state of readiness, right? We have to have our bags packed and make sure you have the things that you want to bring along with you and the things you want to keep. So when you leave, you won't be able to come back and get nothing because it's not going to exist anymore. So any final comments? Let's start with you, Big Red.
Oh man, I was that last part having things packed up. Man, I know that's y'all, because literally that's been in my spirit for like the past month. As I've been looking around in the house and looking around in my office, and I'm like, what do I absolutely have to take? If I had to get up and go right now, what are the last things that we have to take? And that's what we really need to be in the mindset. I agree, with y'all when you say that you got to be in that mindset to leave. And that's what we need to do. There's still some of us that think that we can, vote our way out of some of this stuff, and we can form, committees here in Babylon. Look, that time is done and over with. We shouldn't be putting no more of our resources in there than we need to. You still got to work. You still got to do what you got to do. But if I had, all the investments and stuff that I had like sitting up in there, we pulled that stuff out, man. What's the point in still keeping your money in the market that's going to just perpetually keep falling? A lot of all the Gentiles actually too that's talking in America, they pulling all their money out of the markets. They're getting cash. They're telling everybody, get cash, pull your money out, watch the banks, have some money on you. Don't leave all your money in the banks. Like, be ready, because these systems is not going to be here. Do not depend on Babylon systems. Do not depend on this government to come save you. You have to start thinking how to save, keep your family and yourself good until, you can find a way to get the Jerusalem, like it say in the scripture. We're going to be like, hey, which way to Jerusalem? Because it's going to get crazy here. And we can't depend on these systems. They already talking about some counties. They limiting calls that the police and some of the paramedics are running because they can't afford gas. So we see the signs already, and we see it in the word. Like, we've been praying for this to happen, but I guess we just don't think sometimes that it's gonna go down. It's going down. We can't sit here and we can't depend on America no more. We can't depend on America's Ponzi scheme, aka their financial system. We can't depend on none of their stuff. We got to start getting ourselves ready to, basically pick up the pieces and then bring this thing over to Africa and start building infrastructure over there. My mind has been for the past year and a half on building in Africa. I've been looking and figuring out ways that way when I get there, I already have a good idea of what needs to be done, what I can do, and I can hit the ground running, and I'm not just sitting there looking stupid like, how did I get here?
Yeah. Thank you, Big Red. Brother Asaph, final comments?
Yeah, we can see that even the political leadership in the United States and Europe is a joke. And in Ecclesiastes 10:16 it says, "What sorrow the land has, which is ruled by a servant." I'm just paraphrasing it, and we cannot depend on staying here and living comfortable. We got to have the mindset of leaving. And to be honest with you, I've got loads of t-shirts and I've got loads of them lovely African outfits, you know, that are nice and cool, the linen ones, ready to head back. My mind is not here anyway. I'm not even looking forward to getting the equivalent of the 401k, you know, in future years to come. I'm not going to live to get my pension here. I'm going to be somewhere else. And the thing is, I know how to farm because I lived in Jamaica as a kid, and I used to have my little farm and my animals, and I'm looking forward to going back and rearing animals and planting something. That's my skill.
Yeah, that would be a blessing. Minister T, final comment.
Yeah, brother Asaph, I've been practicing growing vegetables, so I'm a noob, but so far so good. But I wanted to
It
say,
all counts.
we want to make all right. I wanted to say, we need to make sure our all lamps are full first, right? Our spirit needs to be prepared to meet the Most High in however that happens. But as Brother Doug would say, have your bug out bag ready. All right. So I also want to say, the enemy does take Father Yah's words seriously, and that's why you see at the end of the 400 years, right after 2019. Nobody can take that from us, y'all, because it happened right after 2019. All hell broke loose with CV, if you know what I mean, and then everything else, natural disasters, and now the threat of global war. So this is the fulfillment of the 400-year prophecy. Is very clear. That's all.
Well, I thought Brother Doug would say, "Get that smile off your face." Minister T.
Yeah, that's the nice version. And his grin. Where you at, Brother Doug?
One more thing is make sure, fam, in your bags, your bug out bag, whatever you want to call it, your flea bag, your to-go bag, make sure you have a few canned goods, put a few cans of beans in there, some dry goods, and some bottled water. Because if you look at what happened with the refugees in Ukraine, especially for the Africans, right? They were hungry, right? They were cold, and they wouldn't let them out. And we don't know what we're going to run into when we're fleeing, right? We don't know how this thing going to play out. Everybody has their idea of how things are going to play out. But I think, just my opinion, eat the meat, spit out the bone, that we're going to be in a refugee status initially. And then at some point, that's going to change, and they're going to help us to go back to Africa. That's what I think. So who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, Mr. Dave.
I just wanted to mention that, I had my trial run with Hurricane Katrina. I had every expectation of coming back home, right? Just like we always do, run from the hurricane, come back, fix a few things. Not this time, right? I lost everything in the house, every piece of item. The only thing we had was what we took with us and the clothes on our back, right? So the important things that you think you want to have, whether it's like my mom, the biggest thing she lost that she cared about was family photos and things like that. Same for my wife, was a loss of the family photos of the children and things like that. So I'm just saying, it's a good idea to have some kind of plan.
All right, so I want to thank the panel. Thank y'all for coming on, Big Red, Brother Asaph, Minister to you as always. And our family, we want to thank you for your support, and thank y'all for supporting this ministry. And also, stay watchful and continue to warn people, even if they don't want to listen, because you're supposed to be a light to the Gentiles. So, and also please support the Dry Bones Project. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending.